Raymond and Odell Edwards lived in Oklahoma, and for years, I remember from early childhood awesome times spent on their farm. There he raised and trained horses, cattle, pigs, and chickens on close to 200 acres of land. My grandmother was a teacher in the county school system until she retired. They were prominent people in the area and hard-working, law-abiding citizens. But there was a snag in their seemingly perfect life. All my mom's life, she thought she was an only child, and so did we. The visits we made to Oklahoma were the best memories of my life on that farm. After the death of my mother and grandmother, we determined that there was another daughter that was born before my granddad married my grandmother. My grandmother died in 1997, and my granddad died one day before my birthday, July 20th, 2001. All throughout the funeral, this other granddaughter laughed, and then she abruptly presented a copy of a deed and will and flashed it in front of my face. And then before my grandfather was buried, she sold a parcel of land he never wanted sold for a fraction of what it was worth. And she proceeded to do the same thing with the rest of the land on this fake deed. For years, I tried to find legal counsel to fight this because I knew my grandfather would never do this. I knew that my grandmother, who was a smart woman, would never allow this to happen. It wasn't until long after my granddad died that everything began to pop up online with the advancement of technology. I then saw that the signature on the deed that the other granddaughter presented did not belong to my grandfather. My sister and brother died, thinking that their grandfather cut them out of everything that he owned, when in fact, deep in my soul, I knew that he didn't. After some time, I don't know if it had anything to do with the other granddaughter dying, but that same year, a bunch of questionable events started to occur, like the selling of my grandfather's farm without him included in the title chain. I contacted the title office that provided that clear title, but I did not receive a response, so no comment. I then called the county to find out about my grandfather's farm and the selling of it, and they adamantly stated that my grandfather had no land, even though in other databases online you could see that he had several acres of land. I asked who paid the taxes on the farm, and I received no response other than there is no land under his name. After the statute of limitations passed, ironically, I contacted that same office and received proof that my grandfather was indeed the owner of that property and paid the taxes in under 3 minutes. Once again, we reached out to the county treasurer, and as a result, we received no response. So I guess no comment. There are mineral rights that should be mine that are being held hostage until I can hire a lawyer to get them. But unfortunately, for over 20 years, I have been unable to obtain legal counsel. And to this day, these mineral rights are being held by a trust that has an address in the Northeast. This is just a minuscule amount of evidence I have gathered over the past several years, but I am simply laying out some details I have encountered over the years. Whatever conclusion is drawn is entirely up to the viewer. From my perspective, I have for some reason been denied my rightful inheritance. I honestly don't care about anything except for my grandfather's farm, and I hope one day I'll be able to obtain it somehow, in addition to ownership of the mineral rights and whatever royalties we would have obtained over the past 20 plus years. I am a descendant of the Wolf family in the Muskogee Creek Nation, and in spite of all that has happened, that is something that can never be removed. I know that my story is just one of many. If you have a similar experience, fill out the form on the Contact Us page on www.dominionfamilynetwork.com. I have fought this for 20 years, and I received my closure of this whole ordeal by producing and presenting my story. I am a firm believer of two things my mom taught us to live by. Number one, what is done in the dark will always come into the light. And number two, what goes around comes around. Karma. I fought so hard and so long for my grandparents' legacy, I can let it go, knowing I have done my best, and now I'll just let God do the rest.